Barring last night's incredible hockey game between the Vancouver Canucks and the Montreal Canadiens, unfortunately, this morning, it's business as usual. Let's go over to the latest scoop on the block as to trade rumors and discussion and go over what exactly the Vancouver Canucks may be dealing with here. Because, according to Rick Dhaliwal on the latest edition of Donnie and Dolly from yesterday, it appears we might have ourselves a first team involved in the quote-unquote Brock Boeser trade sweepstakes. Take a look at this video segment that was on the show. I can't play it for you because, of course, it's copyrighted material. Instead, what I'll do is I'll go over to Mike Gold's Twitter account, because what they did was they transcribed the entire Rick Dhaliwal segment going over Boeser and whichever team appears to be involved here. This is the tweet. I'll go ahead and leave a big shout out over to Mr. Gold and the link in the description if you want to go ahead and watch the video itself, because it is available on Twitter. But pretty much, this goes over Brock Boeser and the Calgary Flames and the apparent interest that Dhaliwal is reporting might be there. 2 or 3 weeks ago, Boeser was dropped to the third line and off the first power play. And what agents will do is they'll call the GM to discuss a player's drop in ice time. I believe those sides led to both sides agreeing to a move, mutually. This has been in the works with Boeser for a few weeks. Now, confirmation this morning, definitely teams are interested in Brock, no question, but this is going to take time. The Canucks know they're not getting much in return. Sources say the Canucks are willing to take a player backed on, in return preferably a player in his last year, but, I've heard, possibly with 2 years left on the deal. Boeser is going to be tough to move, Donnie, and you know it. 4 goals in 19 games, a -13, $6.6 million a year. Someone said to me teams may want a sweetener in return. If that's the case, it's going to be really tough. The key for the Canucks is cap space next year. That's the flexibility they're looking for where they're going. Boeser is still young. He's got a history of multiple 20-goal seasons. Not sure. The thing I haven't confirmed is if the Canucks will eat salary on years 2 and 3 of Boeser's deal. Now, this is one thing I do know. The Calgary Flames are looking for a goal scorer. I heard last night Calgary may have interest in Boeser. Not confirmed, but teams poke around, Donnie, trying to find a price and see if there's a fit. Lots of former Canucks in the Calgary dressing room who could vouch for Boeser. Furthermore, you had yourselves this article on The Athletic, rumblings on the Canucks and 3 other teams that need to start finding answers soon. Pierre LeBrun's latest. What Buck Foston did was they took some of the quotes from Pierre LeBrun and paraphrased it here on Twitter. According to LeBrun, his understanding of the situation is that as of this morning, Boeser's agent had spoken to at least half a dozen teams since receiving permission last week and has more on tap to check in with this week. LeBrun does not think that a Boeser trade is imminent. However, he does say that Boeser will be playing elsewhere before the end of the season. He suggests that's also the likely scenario for pending UFA captain Bo Horvat. Now, LeBrun has been wrong before. He did say earlier this year that he does not believe the Canucks are going to re-sign Miller, but then again, I don't think anybody really thought the Canucks would re-sign Miller, but at the same time, crazier things have happened, right? Either way, this is the scoop. Boeser has been sort of shopped around a little bit, not by the Canucks per se, but by the agent. The Calgary Flames may be the first team that are being linked to Brock, and you have Tanev, Toffoli, Markstrom, all in that Calgary Flames locker room that could go out there and tell the Flames management, hey, yeah, no, this Boeser guy, he's the real deal. He's good enough to add to our squad. Meanwhile, in Calgary, you have yourselves a situation where one Milan Lucic has been playing quite often. I know people like to Lou every time he touches the puck, and he's kind of a cult figure over there, but at the same time, Milan Lucic is not necessarily all too great. You also have yourselves a few other pieces of talent that exist in that Calgary Flames organization. And I say organization because you have some guys in the AHL, like Matthew Phillips, for example, who are playing extraordinarily well, but who are just not getting the opportunities because Daryl Sutter does not like to play young guys. It's a pretty interesting scenario in Calgary right now, And when you talk about a Boeser trade, I mean, the guy's making the 6.6 AAV, the guy is 25 years old, the guy's going on till 2025, and the guy has been sort of disappointing this year. I know that's interesting to say because he's on pace for 61 points in 76 games played, which would be a career high, but as we have talked about in prior videos, Brock has been disappointing this year. The points are really good, don't get me wrong, and he had that really long point streak earlier last month, but when you watch this guy play, the past 2 games against Arizona and against Montreal, we have seen a different Brock Boeser. This is a guy that's actually motivated and working harder out there. Bruce said that he's playing angry now, which is sort of implying that before Boeser was supposed to get scratched in the Arizona game a few nights ago, he just wasn't playing as well as he could have been. There sort of was that just collect your paycheck kind of attitude. You show up, you play on the boards, you do your thing, and then you go home at the end of the day, you watch Netflix, you chill, and then you just go to bed. There was not necessarily that same drive that I feel that Boeser exhibited in any of the prior games before getting quote-unquote scratched against Arizona. And I feel like when it comes to a change of scenery, this is the biggest thing that could affect this guy in a positive way. We had talked about this in the prior video. When Bruce took over after Travis Green got fired, Boeser was the guy that benefited the most. He scored a ton of goals after Bruce came in. And so right now, the guy is a minus 13 still? Minus 14 now. Yeah, it's gotten worse for Brock. Sure, he is under a point per game and he's on pace for a career high, but he's not been playing well. Plain and simple. And so, heading over to whatever organization is willing to take on that contract, like the Calgary Flames, for example, it makes me quite intrigued as to what the Canucks could get in return. Now, Dollywall is saying on the show that the teams going out there and looking at a Brock Boeser trade are probably not going to give up all too much. And at this point, it's kind of unfortunate that that's the case, because just a few months ago, in the contract negotiation phase as an RFA that the Canucks were going through, I felt like Boeser actually had a lot of value there. Teams would probably have to go out there and negotiate their own deal, but at the end of the day, the rights to signing a guy like Brock Boeser probably were pretty valuable. It's just now the guy's making 6.6, he's a negative player on the ice, and he needs a change of scenery, which means it's going to be really tough to trade him because no team is going to go out there and say that the Canucks are coming from a position of power over here. It's like what Ian McIntyre said a few days ago. If the agent has started to do the negotiating right here, that's not a good sign. It means that your client is down in the dumps and the team was not able to find a trade itself. As for what exactly the Calgary Flames could send over to Vancouver in some sort of a trade, I mean, Milan Lucic is the first one that comes to my mind. He's expiring this season, making $5.2 million a season. You're making your team worse when you trade away Boeser for Lucic, but at the same time, I mean, Milan has kind of been having his own struggles in Calgary, and a lot of Flames fans have been kind of ticked off watching him play this season. I feel like he's going to be the main guy tossed around in a hypothetical Boeser trade to Calgary, but of course, as I am the Canucks fan that I am, I would love to add another younger prospect in return. Give us Matthew Phillips. I know he's not even going to play, so why keep him around, man? I'm just kind of trying to project my own personal feelings into this without really considering the rationality as to whether or not the Calgary Flames are trade away a guy like Matthew Phillips. But either way, if there is some sort of semblance of value that Brock Boeser has, the Canucks should be trying to get themselves a pick, trying to get themselves a younger guy, a prospect that could help them out longer term, because Brock Boeser, unfortunately, I'm not too sure if Brock is going to be that guy in Vancouver. Like, at the end of his career, in 10 years, for example, when Brock has everything that he is going to accomplish set into stone, I would not be surprised that if in 2023, 2024, 2025, 6, 7, 8, 9, he actually is a pretty capable player. It's just, I don't know if that's going to happen with Vancouver. And so, if there is a tremendous amount of value still left to be uncovered here, I hope the Vancouver Canucks get themselves as much value in return for that as they can. So, ton of the cons, your thoughts about the idea of Boeser getting traded over to the Calgary Flames, whether or not it's a Milan Lucic coming back, a Matthew Phillips, any other prospect, or any other expensive guy getting tossed over to Vancouver in return. I mean, it would be kind of funny seeing Tanev, Toffoli, Markstrom, and Brock Boeser all on the same team, because the Calgary Canucks are real, baby. But either way, serious thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Boeser going over to the Calgary Flames? What do you think the return should be, and how well do you think he's going to perform in that sort of system with Daryl Sutter? Ton of the comments, I hope you enjoyed this video. and bye.